Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be talking about markers. As you can see, I have some of my favorite markers here. I even have more brands than this, but these are the ones that I love to work with most, especially when it comes to skin tones. So I'll be going in order by price, starting with Kopecks, then Prismacolor Premier, then I will go to Windsor and Newton and talk about the Pro markers. Then I'm going to talk about the Blick Studio brush markers and then Spectrum Noir markers. Now I want you to keep in mind that I'll be discussing them in order of highest price, but that doesn't mean that just because a marker is more expensive than the next brand that it is necessarily better. And I will be coloring in this doodle here. If you want to see how I sketched this doodle, I did make a video about it and it will be linked at the end of the video. We will start this conversation with what the art community considers the holy grail alcohol-based markers. You guessed it, Kopecks. I made a first impression video about them, and if you want to see that, it will be linked in the upper right hand corner now. Kopecks blend amazingly with each other and have a great feel. They are labeled nicely so you can see which end is the brush tip and which is the chisel tip. The only real con about them is, of course, their cost. It's best to catch them on a sale, but at the end of the day, you can catch all these markers on a sale. But that's why I would recommend them to people who are a little more experienced using markers and maybe even decide to sell their illustrations. That way, they're really getting the biggest bang out of their bucks. But yeah, that's how I feel about Kopecks. The second brand that I will be discussing is Prismacolor Premier. Honestly, they are pretty up there in cost as well. I swear, you guys, I swear, I didn't think they were that expensive when I got them. And then I recently checked the price and I'm like, oh dang. They up there with Kopecks. But they are pretty much just as lovely as Kopecks. They have a bullet tip and a chisel tip. Now I know some people can't stand markers that don't have a brush nib, but I personally like bullet nibs, to be honest with you. It's easy to get into small places and they can still blend nicely. You just got to know the proper techniques or just find what works for you, because what technique works for me might not work for you. But anyways, these markers have a little latch on their caps, which prevent them from rolling around on your desk, which I think is a thoughtful idea. I would recommend these to traditional illustrators, maybe like comic book artists or fashion illustrators, or honestly, just people who usually draw smaller pieces to begin with. They're great markers, you guys. You don't have to sleep on them just because they don't have a brush nib, okay? Next, we have my personal favorite markers, which are the Windsor and Newton Pro markers. And yes, you heard me right. Favorite, meaning over Kopecks. I have been rocking with these markers since they were first branded as Letraset. They are highly pigmented and very saturated in color. Now, although these are my favorite, I don't always recommend them to people because, once again, what works for me may not work for you. And I understand because of their saturation, some people are just not going to like that. And they are bullet nib markers, which I personally like the best, which is why I'm showing you them today. But they do have brush nib markers now for those of you who can't stand bullet nibs. You can tell which end is the bullet nib because of the shape of the cap, and they too have a little latch on the cap which prevent them from rolling on your desk. My only real beef with them is that they aren't refillable. The next brand I will demo is the Spectrum Noir marker. Now, I don't think they get enough notoriety. Yes, they are cheap, but for what you pay for, they are pretty awesome. They blend well with each other, and they were the first brand of alcohol-based markers I used. In fact, I have been rocking with them for so long that I'm actually showing you their old design. They have a new design now, which I haven't purchased because, believe it or not, these inexpensive markers are actually refillable as well. So I just purchased more ink instead of a whole new marker. Their shape is to help prevent them from rolling around your table, but honestly, it is a little awkward to hold at first. I mean, it gets easy to get used to, though, and I like that they have grips, but as you can see, you can't even read the brand of marker or the color which is supposed to show on the end of the caps because the words rub off. Hopefully, they fix that problem in the new design. I recommend these to people who are completely new to the world of alcohol-based markers or want markers to practice coloring with in their sketchbook because these markers are really affordable. You don't really have to worry about ink cost, okay? Last but not least, I have the Blick Studio markers, which are more expensive than Spectrum Noir, but less expensive than Winsor and Newton. I didn't do an actual demo for these markers because I don't have any skin tone markers, and I just love their vibrancy. So I use them for clothes and backgrounds. They are super easy to blend and definitely give me Copic vibes. This is usually the brand I recommend the most to people because it is affordable and they feel the closest to Copics to me. In fact, now, if they were refillable, they'd have Copics shook. But that is the conclusion of this video, you guys. I hope you learned something. I also wanted to point out I tried a new blending style in this video that I'm not really happy with, but still glad that I did because you don't know if you like something unless you try it. I'll be returning to my old style of coloring though. If you are curious about the exact prices of these markers or just want to buy some for yourself, I'll be sure to leave a link for you guys in the description as always. But that's it. I love you guys and I will see you in the next video, okay? Bye!